So 96 Dodge 318 intake sucking oil through like crazy. Plenum gasket's bad. Second time I've had this thing off. So instead of playing games with it, we're just going to weld the plate on the bottom of the intake so I don't have to mess with it anymore. I love the truck, but I tell you, this has made me consider banning myself from the 318s and the 360 Magnum motors that Dodge had just for this intake design. It's ridiculous. But we're about to tear it all down today and fix it the right way. So let's see what we can get into. First, get rid of the damn fuel pump fuse. Make sure there ain't no fuel. It's gonna be a problem of ours. Alright, we know she ain't pumping fuel, so we can go on to the next. Tear off the intake box, throttle body, throttle cables, all that little stupid fun stuff. So then we can actually get down to all the critical shit to pull apart. You know, another fun Saturday here. Hey! One thing I guess I forgot to say, make sure when you're pulling all this apart, if you don't have a good memory, to label all your wires. Most of these will only plug back into one thing one way, but just to be safe, label your stuff, or at least pay attention when you're doing it, or take a video and take pictures. That way you've got something to reference back to. Never hurts. Alright, let me tear more of this part. Alright, throttle body's gone, all the wires are unhooked, airbox is gone, obviously, all that fun stuff. Now, if you read the book and you listen to a lot of other people, they tell you to take off all kind of stuff to get to the intake, which you pretty much have to do. I don't pull the fan shroud because it's just a pain to me. It's unnecessary trying to pull the fan off and all that stuff. You can get everything else off without pulling the fan shroud and without pulling the fan. And you don't have to disconnect your AC system either. You unbolt the 4 bolts, flip your upper radiator hose out the way, and then flip your AC compressor over to the passenger side fender well. And once you pull that, your tensioner pulley, or your idler pulley, and your alternator, then you can take that front bracket off that covers the bolts on the front of the intake, and then I go through and pull all the rest of the millions of wires and hoses that go to the back of the intake for your injectors and your vacuum and your power brake booster and all that fun stuff. And then you pull the bolts for the intake, yank the thing out the way, and throw it across the yard a couple times. And then you pick it all back up and weep in the corner as you start scraping the gasket off and go to fix it again. So that's what I'm going to do. Stay tuned. Alright, so we're back. AC compressor's out the way, and it's all still hooked up. It's just flipped over there. That way you ain't got to lose your charge. Those connections in the lines have O-rings in them, and they will rotate as long as they ain't gunked up with so much crap because you never wash under your hood after you get done playing in the mud. But as long as everything's clean and in good working order, they'll just rotate right on out the way. And you can leave it there without having to undo your system to lose your charge. Alternator's gone. Idler pulley's gone. As you see, it's sitting up there. Something I like to do is anytime I pull a bolt and I can put it back in the hole where it goes. That way you don't have to worry about losing parts and trying to remember where they go and all that stuff if you're like me and you don't write stuff down. Next, we got to take a couple of bolts off here. One here, one here. Take this one out, take this one out, and take these two here. And I know it's probably hard to see some of those, but that will get rid of this whole thing, and then all of our bolts up front are completely exposed. And from there, like I said, then it's just a matter of disconnecting your fuel line, which one of those little disconnect tools makes that a hell of a lot easier. I got one in the back of the truck. Pulling your wires off your injectors, pulling the rest of your vacuum hoses, pulling your bolts, and oh yeah, the other heater hose, and then yanking the damn thing out of there. You can pull your injector rails before you take the intake off. You can pull it after you take the intake off, or you can leave it in place depending on what you're doing. Since I'm going to be putting a lot of heat to the bottom of this intake when I finally get it off, I'm going to go ahead and pull the injector rails, but I will save that until after I get it out of the truck. It just makes it easier. And yeah, we'll go from there. Alright, so here we are. Back to this. Pulled the thermostat housing, pulled the little hose that goes right here that everyone says you can't get off. I replaced mine last time, so it was a lot easier to get off this time, but even the first time I pulled it without having too many issues. Before I go and pull the intake itself off, take the bolts out and everything, I'll take a shop vac and suck so that there's no water and debris left from the cooling system, so that whenever you unbolt everything, you don't have all the water and stuff running back down in the top of your motor. I do the same thing along the sides, but as you can see, this gasket's fresh. I mean, I just did this about 15,000 miles ago, so it ain't got a whole lot of dirt and debris and stuff built up. Plus, I do come up here and rinse this motor every now and then to make sure that we don't have issues. The only thing I've got left to do, all the injector harness is pulled, all the vacuum lines are pulled, everything's off the intake. The only thing left is the fuel rail and the bolts holding the intake on. Take the fuel rail off. I've seen people ask on videos before. This little guy right here, yeah, that one that just fell down there because my fingers are too big to hold small shit like that. This little guy is your best friend. They come in a set like that. I had to buy it for whenever I was doing a fuel pump on a Caprice. Trust me, it saves your life. All you do is you pop the thing in, and it's hard to do it with one hand, but if you just slide it up, push in on your fuel rail, and I'm gonna have to put this down somewhere so y'all can look at it that way. Let's find a good spot. Is that a good spot? Look, that's all it is. It pushes in, it releases those little clips inside there whenever it pushes up to that little stop, and pops it off. So, fat ass trying to climb under the hood of this truck is not too comfortable either. But anyway, so yeah, so that's it. I wouldn't advise smoking while you do that. I have a habit of doing stupid shit like that. I wouldn't advise it. Might go poof on you real quick. Hey, it'll clean all kind of shit off the motor for you though. You just gotta put the fire out real quick. But anyways, that's where we're at. Next steps, unbolting the damn intake and pulling the fucker loose. There's I think 6 bolts down each side. The ones in the back are always the hardest, obviously, and the driver's side is always harder than the passenger. But I mean, you see right here, you got you know, 4 up front, it's 4 in the middle, and then 4 on the back, 2 on each side. Pull those out, and with a little persuasion, the intake pops loose and you yank the thing out, and then is when the crying starts, because that's when the actual hard work starts. All right, so I'll be back. All right, so now, as you see, all the bolts are out and the intake is off. Problem is, I don't think you're really going to be able to see, but if you look down in those holes, you can see all the residue. That really sucks. That light. Sorry, I can't get you a better picture, but we'll revisit it again once the sun's coming out a little bit. We'll revisit it again once we get that bottom plate off. But you can tell by the mess down in there that that's not supposed to be there. Intake's supposed to be nice and clean, and you can see all the oil residue that's down in the bottom. So I'm gonna pop these bolts out of these injector rails and pop the injectors out, flip it over, and start tearing it apart. Now, as you can see, that's the plate. That's where oil is just pooling on the back of the plate once I pulled it off the bottom of the intake. You can see the gasket back here just wasn't sealing at all. You can see where all the oil's pooling down here, running down, sucking back up into these runners, which is what's fouling the plugs, causing spark knock. Now, this truck's a 96. This intake's off of a 98, because a 98, Dodge did decide to do a little better design where this wall is a lot shallower. As you see, if you pull off and you got a 96 intake, you'll see that wall comes almost all the way down to the bottom. And in 98, they decided to change it back up so that it was a lot shallower. Also took and cut the intake runners back a little bit. Yeah, I can do a lot more cleaning up on that, but right now I'm not really worried about it. I don't care. I'm just using this as a little toy because I'm trying to find a 360 that I can build to put back in here. But this is what we're at for now. So there you go.